Okay, let's unpack this. We've all been there, or at least we've all imagined it. That moment where reality just slams into the windshield,
Mm,
you're just cruising, everything is fine, and then in the time it takes to blink, an unexpected hazard is just there.
yeah, a sudden construction barrier,
Yeah.
a massive piece of tire debris, or an animal jumping onto the road.
And that split second is pure panic.
Absolutely. Your
Yeah.
primal brain just takes over, screaming at you to avoid that collision at all costs. And for most drivers, that means one thing.
An aggressive, instantaneous steering input.
You yank the wheel, you
Okay.
swerve. It's just instinct.
Exactly. We see that as the ultimate move, right? The life-saving reflex. But we are doing a deep dive today into one of the most critical and, frankly, counterintuitive questions in driver safety.
Which is that panicked instinct to yank the wheel and swerve truly a heroic save? Or is it statistically, mechanically, and psychologically the start of a far greater catastrophe?
Our mission today is to cut through that instinct and really extract the raw, practical, life-saving knowledge from expert driving guides, advanced safety courses, and these high-pressure scenario analyses.
Yeah, and we've gathered sources that, they obsess over maintaining vehicle control when seconds really, really matter.
And what we found immediately creates this incredible tension. Swerving feels like avoiding the problem.
It does.
But the consensus among driving experts is just overwhelming. The immediate hidden dangers of that desperate maneuver are often far worse than the original hazard you were trying to miss.
And we're going to show you why controlled braking is, well, almost always the superior choice, which takes us directly to the immediate danger, a key concept we have to internalize.
Okay.
When you swerve suddenly, the biggest immediate risk is not the original object. It's the total loss of control of your own vehicle.
You are introducing a chaotic variable.
A huge one. Your car's momentum into an already volatile situation.
The source material actually calls this the insane chain reaction.
Or the ripple effect.
Yeah. Think about it. A stationary deer or a pile of debris is one localized hazard. A 2-ton vehicle spinning sideways at highway speed, that's a whole different problem.
It's a rapidly propagating series of hazards that drags in innocent people. This is where the physics just gets ugly.
How so?
A sudden swerve initiates a severe weight transfer. All the vehicle's momentum shifts to one side, it compresses the suspension, and it instantly reduces the traction on the opposite tires.
And then you overcorrect.
Which is the natural human reaction. And when you do that, you're immediately going into fishtailing or a total high-speed spinout.
And the consequences are devastating, specifically because of the types of collisions you invite.
Exactly. If you skid across the lane, you risk getting T-boned by a car next to you that had zero time to react. If your correction is severe enough, you can launch yourself across the median.
Right into opposing traffic.
Which is a high-speed head-on collision is arguably the most severe impact possible. And a panic swerve significantly increases that risk.
And that's not even considering what happens if you leave the road.
No. We have to consider vulnerable road users. If your car flies onto the shoulder or a sidewalk because you lost control, pedestrians and cyclists have, and I'm quoting here, zero warning.
And absolutely no defense against 2 tons of spinning metal.
None.
We also need to pause on vehicle design here. The average vehicle on the road today is not some low-slung race car.
Not at all. We're driving SUVs, crossovers, trucks.
That's critical.
It's so critical because vehicles with a high center of gravity are particularly prone to rolling over during sharp, abrupt turns at speed.
So you're saying that swerve is even more dangerous than an SUV?
Much more. You load that weight onto the outside wheels so aggressively that the inertia can just lift the inner wheels right off the ground, and that often leads to a catastrophic rollover. It's a very real danger that wasn't as prevalent decades ago when sedans dominated the market.
The statistics on this ripple effect are just sobering. The experts found that one single panic swerve often doesn't just result in 2 cars hitting.
No, it's way worse. That one input can, and this is a quote, easily drag 3 other innocent drivers into the mess.
So now you have 4 or more cars tangled up across multiple lanes. You've taken a localized problem and just multiplied the danger 4-fold.
Which brings us naturally to the question, why? Why are drivers initiating this chain reaction in the first place?
Right. Why the desperate last-ditch move? It's easy to assume it's always something unavoidable. A tire blowout, a flash flood.
Something completely out of your control.
But if we follow the data from our sources, the truth is a little challenging. A vast majority of the time, we're talking a full 60% of cases. The problem originates with the person behind the steering wheel.
60%. That means, most of the time, the need for the panic maneuver was created by a prior failure in attention or planning.
Not some unavoidable catastrophe.
Right. Driver inattention is the #1 culprit, and we have to define what that really means because it's much broader than just texting.
We all think of distraction as having a phone in your hand.
But inattention includes deep daydreaming, being mentally checked out, or spending too much time focusing on things inside the car.
Like eating or drinking, trying to find that perfect radio station, fiddling with a complex touchscreen.
Or even just being overly focused on your side mirror while trying to merge. And you miss the critical braking that just started directly in front of you. Many drivers fall into what the sources call a tunnel vision state.
They're looking ahead, but they're not really seeing.
They're not processing the changes. So when they finally snap out of it, the necessary space to react, that time buffer, it's gone. And they are left with only one choice: a panicked, abrupt movement.
So the crisis isn't a mechanical failure. It's an attention failure that just ate up your buffer zone. But of course, we do have to address the other 40%.
Yes, external factors are real. We have vehicle failures, sudden, explosive tire blowouts, or problems from poor maintenance like worn, bald tires that hydroplane easily.
Or a suspension failure.
Exactly. And then you have the environmental factors that can surprise even the most attentive driver. Black ice on a cold morning, hydroplaning in heavy rain, or a strong wind gust that actually pushes a high-sided vehicle sideways. Or, you might genuinely encounter unavoidable road debris, a ladder that fell off a truck.
Something that presents an instant, catastrophic barrier. These things demand a severe reaction.
They do. But even in these cases, the correct type of reaction is paramount.
And that brings us to the core dilemma, the entire reason for this deep dive: swerve or brake.
When you look at the evidence, the physics, and all the secondary risks, the source material is definitive. Braking is almost always the safest bet.
Always.
Almost always. When you weigh the possibility of a minor collision with an obstacle against the risk of a complete loss of control in a multi-vehicle catastrophe, control wins. You must prioritize keeping the car stable.
But I have to push back on that a bit. That goes against the most powerful, survival-based instinct we have. My brain is telling me to steer away from the thing I see.
I know. It's incredibly difficult, and it requires training and, honestly, trust in your vehicle.
Trust in the technology.
Exactly. That trust is placed squarely in the technology we now take for granted. The anti-lock braking system, or ABS.
Okay, let's spend a moment on ABS, because this is the great equalizer here. Before ABS, slamming the brake pedal meant the wheels locked up.
And when wheels lock, you immediately lose the ability to steer. You're just a passenger at that point.
You become a sled.
Precisely.
Right.
ABS changed the game. It's engineered for this exact high-pressure moment. It senses when a wheel is about to lock up, and it rapidly pumps the brakes up to 20 times per second.
Way faster than a human could.
Oh, way faster. This means you can brake firmly. You should absolutely press that pedal down hard and still maintain steering control. It lets you decelerate while making small, necessary adjustments to your direction.
So an old car, I slam the brakes, I turn into a sliding projectile. A modern car with ABS, I slam the brakes, and I can still steer around the problem.
You are buying time and distance, which are the most valuable commodities in an emergency. Swerving, by contrast, is a huge gamble that bypasses your car's best safety system. If you hit that object a little bit slower, you might minimize damage. If you swerve into a tree or another car, the outcome is almost certainly worse.
But the experts do concede there are moments where swerving is the only option.
Right. If a swerve is truly unavoidable, it has to be a controlled maneuver. That means a smooth, gentle, measured input to change direction, not a violent, abrupt yank of the wheel.
And crucially.
And this is vital. Before you turn, you must use your periphery and your mirrors to check traffic. A swerve should never surprise another driver. That's the quickest way to create that ripple effect.
Okay, so let's move from the decision-making to the actual mechanics. What if, even after trying to brake or a gentle swerve, the car starts to skid, the wheels are losing traction? What do we do in that moment of terror?
We circle right back to the first rule of skid control.
Yeah.
Defeat panic.
Easier said than done.
Of course. But panic guarantees overcorrection. And overcorrection is what turns a minor slide into a spin-out. You have to keep a clear mind to implement the action sequence.
And this sequence, it goes against everything your body wants to do. So let's walk through the steps for when the rear of your car is starting to slide out, what we call oversteering.
Okay. Step 1. Ease off the accelerator. Smoothly take your foot off the gas pedal. And crucially, Do not suddenly slam on the brakes.
Why not?
Applying power or sudden braking while sliding just disrupts the car's balance even more severely.
Got it. Reduce power, maintain balance. What step 2, the counterintuitive part?
Step 2 is to countersteer gently. This is the hardest part psychologically. If the rear of the car slides to the right, you must steer smoothly, gently to the right, into the direction of the skid.
That seems like you're trying to steer towards the accident.
It feels that way,
Yeah.
but you're actually trying to straighten the wheels relative to the body of the car. The goal is to bring the front tires back in line with the rear to end the rotation. You guide the nose to meet the tail.
And how do you make your hands cooperate with that motion?
That's step 3. Focus your gaze. You need to look exactly where you want the car to go. Not at the obstacle, not at the curb you're about to hit. Look down the road at the empty space where you want to end up.
And your hands will just follow your eyes.
They will instinctively follow your eyes. It's a massive aid in preventing overcorrection.
And finally, when do we slow down?
Step 4. Gradual braking. You only apply brakes gently and progressively after the car starts to straighten out and you regain stability. If you have ABS, apply that steady, firm pressure. The one major exception here is pure ice on sheer ice. Any braking at all is often counterproductive.
Okay, that gives you a framework for handling your car. But let's shift gears. What if you're the defensive driver who sees this happening? You see another car swerving wildly up ahead.
Your job immediately shifts to self-preservation. You need a massive safety margin. The first action is reflexive. Back off and create a huge following distance.
A protective safety bubble.
Exactly. You need double the space you usually keep, because that driver's movements are completely unpredictable. That distance is the only thing standing between their chaos and your control.
And the second rule.
Do not try to engage or pass the erratic vehicle. Their movements are so random that trying to overtake them just puts you in their danger zone. Don't signal, don't flash your lights, don't confront them, stay back.
But if they are so erratic that you believe they are impaired or having a medical emergency, what's the protocol?
If it rises to the level of serious danger, you call 911 immediately, but only if it's safe for you to do so. Provide the dispatcher with specific details, the vehicle's description, make, model, color, license plate, and their location.
And in the meantime?
In the meantime, if you can safely turn on your own hazard lights, it's a good way to warn traffic approaching from behind that there is danger ahead.
It all just comes back to proactive decision-making. We've learned how to react, but the ultimate, absolute safest maneuver is the one you never have to make.
Prevention. That is the real win. And prevention boils down to ensuring the machine is ready and the operator is ready.
So vehicle maintenance.
Dedicated maintenance.
Yeah.
Have to prioritize good tires, proper inflation, adequate tread, making sure they're balanced and aligned. The tires are your car's only connection to the road. Misalignment can cause the car to pull subtly, and when you brake hard, that can initiate a skid.
And the second area, the driver habits, is the one we started with. It's addressing that 60% statistic.
Correct. Prevention is all about maximizing your reaction time. That means staying absolutely alert, minimizing every possible distraction, and always, always maintaining a safe following distance. That distance buys you the 2 or 3 seconds you need to shift from a panicked swerve to a smooth, controlled braking sequence.
And it's worth noting the financial implications, too. Even if you execute a perfect emergency maneuver and avoid a collision, you haven't escaped damage entirely. It's not at all. An emergency swerve places incredible strain on the vehicle. You risk rapid, uneven tire wear. You will almost certainly need a wheel alignment afterward. You're subjecting your suspension and steering to extreme shock loads.
So avoiding the accident is a win, but it might come with a hefty repair bill.
It often does.
This has been a critical deep dive. The synthesis is absolutely clear. Emergency swerving is a massive gamble that statistically results in secondary collisions and loss of control.
While controlled, firm braking, thanks to modern ABS systems, is the far superior choice because it prioritizes stability.
But beneath all the mechanics, awareness remains the crucial factor.
And that's where we lead the data. We return to that damning 60% figure, the fact that driver inattention is the primary cause of these crisis moments. We load our cars with extraordinary technology, but if the human at the wheel is mentally checked out, all that engineering is useless.
The single greatest safety feature is the driver's focus.
It is and always will be the driver's full focus. And that raises an important question for you, the listener, as you pull away from the curb today. If your lack of focus is the #1 threat to your safety, what one small daily distraction are you willing to eliminate? Is it the constant mirror checking, the coffee sip, the quick phone glance?
Whatever it is, eliminating it guarantees you have the precious time and space needed to avoid panic and maintain control. Focus isn't just a good habit, it is the fundamental safety feature you install every single time you buckle up.
Please like, subscribe, and get notified.